Welcome to the Unperturbed podcast with your host, Dr. Rhonda Alexander. In this forum, we're going to take a look at the secrets closely held by strong Black women. It is my goal to help us all heal from the things we often hide. Join me as we take a journey to healing, wholeness, and happiness, and a state of mind that I call unperturbed. Hey everybody, once again, it's your girl, Dr. Rhonda. I am super excited to be back for yet another episode of Unperturbed. I believe we're up to episode 7, and it really has been great launching this podcast and just sharing a piece of me with you guys. And so today I want to talk about self-sacrificing. I don't know where we got the feeling that we are not worthy unless we are giving of ourselves to others. Unless we come to the table with a sacrifice of ourselves, we seem to feel that people don't value us. And quite often we find ourselves in these relationships and situations where we're expected to give and give and give with little to no return, right? Little to no reciprocity. And we do get tired. The challenge is we're often not allowed to demonstrate or to show that we're tired, that we need to be refilled, that our cup is empty. We just keep sacrificing. Oh, the cup is empty? Let me give you my finger. Oh, I'm out of fingers? I'll just cut my hand off and give that to you. Oh, you need an arm? Sure, I'll give you an arm, right? Until we find ourselves in such a deficit emotionally and mentally that we have what people call a breakdown, right? Or a mental break. I'm really of the mind that we can create boundaries where we don't have to give of ourselves incessantly, where we can say, I need something from you in return. Or where we can say, I'm plumb out, right? I'm fresh out. I don't have anything else to give. And when we do that, we give others the opportunity to pour back into us if they have the capacity to do so. What we often find is that we connect ourselves with people who only have the capacity to receive and not the capacity to give. And so we find ourselves pouring and pouring and pouring and keeping their cups full. But there's no spout on their cup to pour back into us. And so we have to take some of that responsibility in terms of how much do we give? When do we say that's enough? And why do we feel guilty when we actually do say that? When we finally say, I'm on E and I have nothing left to give, why do we feel guilty about that? There's something that's ingrained in us as Black women that says to be strong, you have to just keep taking it. You have to just keep taking whatever is dished at you. You have to suck it up and keep going. And far too often we internalize that mantra, even if it's unspoken, we internalize that. And we turn that into something that we unconsciously live by. And so when we finally do start to create boundaries, people start to look at us like, who is this person? What's wrong with her? What's wrong with you? You're so distant. Why are you focusing on you? You're seeming more selfish than usual, when all we're actually doing is enforcing boundaries to make sure that we create environments and that we immerse ourselves in activities and connect ourselves to people who have the ability to fill us up. And so in this brief podcast, I really just want to remind us all that it's okay to draw a line. It's okay to decide that you no longer want to sacrifice parts of yourself to try to prove to others that you're worthy, that you are valuable. Because you're valuable just because you're you, right? I feel like Mr. Rogers, right? I love you just because you're you. But it's the truth. And we all need that kind of reassurance, affirmation, even if it comes from ourselves, from the activities that we choose for ourselves. There shouldn't be a reason why you can plan others' vacations. You can tell others that they need a therapist. You can tell people that they need to engage in self-care, and then you're booked 24 hours a day working for those people, and you never stop to take a day or two off where the computer is off, the phone is off, there are no meetings, where you are just you. Now, how do I know this? Anybody who knows me will tell you I'm speaking to you from a position of I have the same problem, right? My days can be so full of meetings and attending to others' problems and solving others' challenges and helping people to see the best in themselves and giving even when I'm dog tired, that when people ask me, hey, what do you do with your downtime? I'm like, well, what is that? Hey, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, I work. And in the past year or so, like seriously, in the past year or so, I really have been more mindful about finding things that refill me, because it is so painful to pour from an empty cup. It's not impossible. It can be done. We do it all the time. But you'll notice that you're pouring from an empty cup when you find yourself resentful all the time. That when you find, of course, you're tired, but you find yourself feeling like if they only knew that I'm ministering to them and sharing with them and encouraging them, and I myself am on the edge. I myself need a listening ear. I myself need help and support. I'm on the brink of a breakdown, but I have no one to share that with because people can't handle strong me showing up as weak. And I think that is really why, some of us have difficulty saying, not now. I need to recharge my batteries, because then that negates or maybe interferes with our own kind of superhero complex. Or we may be concerned that it may taint others' idea of us as this superwoman. And so I want to encourage you to start thinking about whether or not you're self-sacrificing all the time. Are you operating in a deficit emotionally, mentally, all the time? Do you feel like you've done something wrong anytime you take time for yourself or say no? I'd rather not. I can't. I don't have time. I need to rest. Do you find that when you're just taking a day to relax and watch something on TV or spend time with the kids or just lay in the bed for an extra hour, do you feel guilty about that? Because a lot of people do. And speaking honestly, again, I had to get to the point where I no longer felt guilty about taking a lazy day. Because my brain would always be telling me, you could be doing something. You could be helping someone. This has to be done. That task has to be completed. But at the end of the day, I can't be the best me. I can't be the person I'm created to be if I'm always operating in the negative. So that means for me, having to take a step back and look at how I perceive rest, how I perceive creating and enforcing boundaries. Do I have a real problem with my self-esteem to the extent that I don't value my time? I feel like my only value is found when I'm giving of myself to others, and not when I'm just honoring me, and not when I'm just honoring the gift that is in me and the gifts that are in us all, right? We have to honor those gifts through rest, through boundaries, through saying no, through giving to ourselves so that we can effectively give of ourselves. Most of us will operate in our passions and in the things that we love until we are absolutely burned out. And then we have to take a sabbatical, we have to disconnect, we have to relocate. There are all kinds of things that we do when we feel like we're fed up. The challenge is realizing ahead of time that as you pour out your gifts, your passions, the things that you do very well, something has to pour back into you so that you can continue to operate at your peak performance. You owe it to yourself as someone who desires to be effective, someone who is charged with leading and loving others. You owe it to yourself to make sure that your batteries stay charged, that you stay full. You cannot continue to empty yourself out for others and give of yourself without anything coming back to you. It is vital that you find what brings you joy, what fills you up, what makes you smile from your toes. Those are the things we should seek. We're not strong because we're self-sacrificing. We're strong because we know how to hold up a boundary and say, not today. Maybe tomorrow, but definitely not today. I'm resting. I'm taking time for myself. I'm spending time with my children. I'm reconnecting with my purpose. I'm reconnecting with my creator. Strong women don't have to hide the fact that they have self-sacrificed themselves down to nearly nothing. And many of us are hiding that. The fact that we are walking around in a chronic deficit. And nobody knows it because we hide it so very well. So, strong woman, I want to encourage you on today to take a look at what you do that can be considered self-sacrificing. Is it overly done? Are you in a deficit? Do you need to find something that fills you up and restores and renews you so that you can carry on the work of your assignment? There's some deep thinking we have to do in this moment, but it's definitely worth it. You will appreciate acknowledging to yourself that you don't have to just give and give and give and give. That you can, you should, you must take time to receive, even if nobody else is giving besides you. You're very much worth it. So I hope this episode has helped you. I'd love to hear from you. Please shoot me an email at rhonda@thedrrhonda.com or at unperturbed-thepodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach me on Instagram and all of the other social platforms at the Dr. Rhonda, TheDrRhonda. I would love to have your feedback about what you think of this podcast, whether or not you find this helpful. And even if there's something you want to hear me talk about, I'd love to hear from you. Until the next episode, it's your girl, Dr. Rhonda. Be well. So I want to take a quick second to thank our first sponsor, Poddex at poddex.com. They are the best all-in-one podcast idea generation tool. You get everything from episode ideas to interesting conversation starters for interviews, engaging discussions for your live streams, and even social media content ideas. With this tool, you don't have to spend weeks trying to come up with content for an episode or unique questions for your guests. Just shuffle the cards, pick one at random, hit the record button, and get started. Now you can make better content, have more fun while you're at it, and get your viral moment. all with Poddex. Head over to poddex.com and use my code C4C. Try